Swear your oath, Moraine Sedai.
I swear to speak no word that is not true, to make no weapon with which one person may kill another, and never to use the one power as a weapon.
Do you know what Aes Sedai means in the old tongue? Servants of all. It is they who serve the world.
I didn't choose this path, but I will follow it.
Where next?
The two rivers. The old blood runs deep in those mountains. Let's hope it's prepared them for what's coming. The Dark One is waking. But there will be one who can stand against him. And it's one of the five of you.
You fully lost your mind.
Your life isn't going to be what you thought.
Moraine.
What are those? His army is coming.
What can we do?
We protect the people we love. No matter the cost.
Our enemies are everywhere. They will leave no one standing.
We've lost too many people already. I can't lose you.
You won't. If we do not stop the Dark One now, the whole world will burn. I can't allow it. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills.
Do you think we'll...
Welcome, everybody. The periodic table of awesome. We have a special guest.
Where is she up or is she down from
She's
me?
right in the middle.
chat.
She's right in the
Someone
middle of
chat
everything.
Has like teleported in here.
Oh my God. Hi, Rena. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Exceptional. You know, we're getting
Thank you
close
for
to
having
Christmas.
me.
Well, you don't know
Glad
what
to
you're
have
in
you
for
here.
yet. Come on.
Oh, I have an idea.
Quite honestly, you're the only one who's the expert on this, and the rest of us is going to sit here and be like, uh-huh.
Yeah, we're four filthy casuals and a super fan.
Oh,
Yes.
so
An
so
intruder.
filthy.
That's right, Predico. We have an intruder.
Yes. And now I've realized if I look down like this, I'm looking at you. So,
Oh.
Wait, which way? This way.
Oh, the Brady
Yeah.
Bunch bit. It never gets old.
Yeah. Shut up, Pete.
This is the story of an Aes Sedai. No.
Oh, God.
Ew.
What is it? Aes Sedai. I can't keep up. Like, there is a lot to do in this thing.
Why
and
is
a
her
lot of
last name
characters.
Sedai and they're all called Aes Sedais?
It's a title.
Yeah. And this is why we
Means
have Rena.
servant of all.
Oh.
I
so-
feel like that was actually explained in the series.
And it may
Also in the trailer that we just
heard.
You,
No,
you
but
know,
like the other witches have different surnames, but hers is like the same as what they're called.
yeah, but this is just like there is a lot to unpack in this. There's a lot of world building that you got to sort of keep up with. It's a fantasy series based off a novel which has a very long pedigree and history. It's going to have a slight barrier to entry. And I love watching these fantasy TV shows. Just try and get through it without blinking. And this one is, oh boy, I don't know if it was successful, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, getting right into it.
Yeah,
So I have to
yeah,
admit,
sorry.
I really actually wanted to at least read the first book before I started watching this series. And if we weren't scheduled to talk about it, I would have had time to do that.
Right.
But
Oh, so you would have been reading it tonight.
well, no, I started listening to the audiobook a few weeks ago. I just haven't had a lot of time for books, and then I had to slam 6 episodes so that I could talk about it tonight. So basically I've read the first few chapters
Okay.
and then watched the series, which, you know, not great.
That's how I did Game of Thrones. So, you know.
At least you have
yeah,
a slight
it's-
idea of what you're
There-
in for.
There are quite a few things that have been advertised to me as a television or movie adaptation that have made me interested enough in the trailer that I've then gone and read the books before I prefer to read the book first, generally. if it's something that it looks like I am going to be into, and this from the trailer looked like something that I would be into. But instead, I've done not that.
I like that. I have done not that.
I've done not that. I've done what I do with everything that we talk about, come in with no background knowledge and just watched the thing, which does give a particular perspective. Like Dion says, this is the perspective of coming into a world that lots of people care about, and seeing if they have translated that world onto the screen in a way that's going to bring in a new audience.
So what are we talking about?
We're talking about Wheel of Fortune. I mean, sorry, no.
Spin that wheel.
Sequel. Actually, no. I like the. I think it's the Weird Al Yankovic version. Wheel of Fish.
Oh no, I was thinking of the Sesame Street one, Squeal of Fortune. And there's the little pig in the middle, and you've got to guess how many oinks. and oinks. Yeah.
Sesame Street was dark.
Yes, and if you would like to buy a Val, you're more than welcome to. We are talking about The Wheel of Time, which is the new series on Amazon Prime, and it's I would say it's Amazon Prime putting their marker in the high fantasy televisualized stuff.
So
And
unbelievable.
the last time we did this with Amazon Prime, you guys were really mean to it.
What was the last one?
What was the last one?
Carnival Row.
Oh, well, fuck.
Carnival
come
Row was
on.
bad though.
That was shit.
It
was
Come on.
pretty, but it was
Rena,
shit.
did you have any feelings on Carnival Row?
It was so very pretty.
It was pretty, right?
It was so very pretty.
Except
It's a world.
the
They
problem
made a
is
world.
they picked the two most least charismatic leads. You know, Cara Delevingne and fucking Orlando Bloom.
Blando Loom.
Yeah. But then
No,
I
I
love
like Cara Delevingne, so she's like, I don't know, she's fun.
Actually, and she's like Orlando Bloom is not the least, charismatic. It's her co-star from Valerian. Dane DeHaan is the least charismatic fucking lead in the world.
Sure, but we saw June. We all know Timothy Chalamet's taking over that role.
Oh, I
But
don't know.
he's
I would
so
say
pretty.
yeah, he has a certain je ne sais quoi.
I mean, I love that, Amazon went, Game of Thrones made a lot of money. We can do that. What properties are out there that we can do to make money out of this? And then proceeded to do it with absolutely no self-awareness that they were just copying everyone else's homework.
I don't know.
That's my
'cause
quick review of Wheel of Time.
I feel like Netflix did exactly the same thing, but they went, we need to do this. I'd fucking grab The Witcher,
Oh,
Yeah.
And
fuck off
I
with
know
The
that is
Witcher.
also going to make
Yeah.
Rena is going to pull up the book straight away.
The Witcher, his Dark Materials, Shadow and Bone.
Sure.
Yeah.
Netflix have got it covered. There's not much left for poor
Witcher
old
was
Amazon.
actually not too bad, whereas Shadow and Bone and his Dark Materials sort of went between.
I liked Shadow and Bone. I thought that was great. His Dark
liked it.
Materials was
Costumes
BBC,
were good.
wasn't it? That wasn't Netflix, was it?
I don't remember.
Well,
There's been
Oh,
two
yeah,
different
actually.
versions of
Yeah.
Dark Materials so far. So
Oh, shit.
there's like
okay.
the movie, and then there's like the TV series, and
We
then
don't
Oh,
talk
there's
about the movie.
I watched the
Yeah.
TV series for the first series, and then was like, "Hey, that was cool," and then went to watch the second series, and was like, "Yeah, I'm okay."
Yeah, I had a similar sort of thing where I was enjoying it, and then I just suddenly wasn't, and I was like, okay, and I keep thinking I should go back and watch more of that. It was seemingly good, but I just can't bring myself to give a shit. So
There's
I
so
feel
much
like it
else
might
out
have
there.
been the audience it was aimed at. It's definitely a slightly younger audience that one's intended for. Same with Shadow and Bone. It's definitely, I think, sort of a Gen Z sort of audience that's loving those, and that's not a bad thing.
Does
It's
Does anyone get the strong vibe that they're just like this series is just getting out a sort of a tester? It's like Lord of the Rings TV light, as in this is a great place to try out all of the CGI to see how it's all going to go before they start heading into like, now we've put in billions of dollars that we need to return to. This is a very good alpha.
I feel like you're being unkind to it.
I feel like you might be being a little bit unkind to it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that this is exactly Lord of the Rings light.
No, I have heard a lot of people describing it as Lord of the Rings, and frankly, everybody here knows that I do not like it. But I surprisingly am finding Wheel of Time very enjoyable.
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, maybe I was just like a little underwhelmed by some of the CGI, but it was very Dungeons and Dragons.
See, I've had a
Oh.
lot of people
Oh.
describe it as Amazon Prime does like Shannara Chronicles.
That's the one that I kind
To
of
me-
hung my
To
hat
me,
on a bit.
Shannara Chronicles is like CW does fantasy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I've read those books too, and I was like, oh yeah, this will be good. And then I'm like,
It wasn't.
it's not horrible, but it's definitely not what I was expecting.
No.
They've definitely gone closer to Game of Thrones with Wheel of Time, but because it's not kings and mad queens and everyone fighting over a throne, it's definitely a slightly quieter story than Game of Thrones was. I think it's a bit
Also-
more personable.
A lot more human, but also I think the reason that most people I think are kind of having a bit of a with Wheel of Time is because it has a different production value. And you know, you were saying that the Wheel of Time is essentially Amazon Prime does Shannara Chronicles, and Shannara Chronicles is CW does, you know, fantasy or whatever.
I'm saying some people are saying that. I'm
Okay,
not saying
I'm
that.
not saying that. Okay, right. But I think there is that thing that the reason that the Shannara Chronicles made people go ugh is because it looked so televisual. Whereas Game of Thrones feels like it's the next level up. Like, and mostly that's through, you know, good color grading or specific color grading, and also a desire to shoot specifically on film more than whatever. I feel like Game of Thrones set a very high standard of how fantasy on TV had to look, which was
Eventually, not straight away.
Yeah.
no.
First season was a bit ropey and a bit few. It's like, whoa.
But it was like it set a tone which was dour, grey, you know, and cold, and a particular look. And one of the reasons that I don't think Wheel of Time does that is because it's got a color palette, and it's quite bright and quite, you know, colorful. And some of the costume design is oddly,
Call it lush.
well, lush, but also it feels a little bit like it's, you know, today. It doesn't necessarily.
I specifically wanted to talk to Jill about the costumes, and I think that Rena probably would have opinions as well. But a couple of the costumes, I was like, did they just buy that from H&M? You know, some of the pieces.
I feel like actually, Rena, and I will ask constantly things that I just don't understand about the women that can control the power. What are they called as a collective?
As said I.
Aes Sedai or Sedai?
Aes Sedai.
Aes Sedai. Okay, yeah, no.
Aes Sedai.
I got a really weird vibe from they're kind of like the Google of the future. Because they all have
Because of the colors?
They all have different colors. And I was kind of like, is this like set 2,000 years in the future where suddenly women can do stuff, but it's all like the Google
More
Corporation
like 3,000, but
versus
anyway.
the rest. And I was just like, this is so weird.
I looked at it more as like, you know, medieval Star Trek. That the ones in red are probably going to die on the first expedition. The ones in blue are going to be doing cool science shit over here. You know.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the costumes because in that instance, it's one of the significant changes that they did make from the book. And I mean, obviously they've done it deliberately for the non-reader market to make that you've got an idea. That's the blue Aja, that's the green Aja, that's the red Aja. It's very, very obvious because in the books, all they wear is a shawl with the fringe in the color that they belong to, which is something I kind of missed out on because I loved that idea, that aesthetic of it. But yeah, no, they've gone to try and make it very obvious which team, I guess you could say, each of these women belong to because there's 7 of them. There's 7 different Ajas and each of them has a speciality.
I'm just saying, as a colorblind person, I'm not a big fan of this messaging. Just putting it out there.
Also, it works very well in cults. If you want to make sure that people
exactly.
have different levels of in their cult, just add them to the color palette.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
eventually
When
you
you've
get
got
to
a
the
shawl with a particular color, that means that you
I
are
actually think
higher
that
up.
that's quite a smart idea. Like if you've got something that's sort of subtle and nuanced in a book way, or like that's explained that way, how do you help translate that immediately because, as I've said, barrier to entry is one of the big problems with fantasy. So you've got to think of the viewer who's got a lot of content that they're allowed to, watch these days, and you've got to be able to help them immediately catch up to the story. And
to immediately give people an idea of like which side are they rooting for, because who's on what team, who is going to be, a certain personality, because it gives them that instant trigger of, oh, okay, so they're on, Moraine's side, or they're on Leandrin's side, or, they're a white cloak and they're just a jackass.
Or they're a giant, like, horned hoof demon thing that is obviously the bad guys.
Yeah.
So we're getting into quite a bit of detail here.
Yes,
How about we get a synopsis on what the
Theon,
show's actually about?
Do I have any kind of musical accompaniment to said synopsis?
Let's just check what I've got in here.
It's going to be that fucking song from Black Widow, isn't it?
Oh!
The Wheel of Time follows Moraine, a member of the Aes Sedai, a powerful organization of women who could use magic. She takes a group of 4 young people on a journey around the world, believing one of them might be the reincarnation of the dragon, a powerful individual prophesied to either save the world or destroy it. Done.
That's it. I've got like 3 more minutes of this music.
Okay, Rosamund Pike plays Moraine. Daniel Henney is Alan Mandragora.
He's cute, that guy.
Yeah. And then a rolling cast of people we don't know or can't remember because we spent all of our money.
There's an Aussie in the lead. Thank you very much.
Rosamund Pike is not an Australian.
No. Madeline, what's her surname?
Madeline Madden.
Madeline Madden.
Australian film and television actress Madeline Madden.
Hey, she's been in a few things before this. She was in Picnic at Hanging Rock. She was in Dora the Explorer. But
hey, haven't seen Dora the Explorer, have heard good things.
Starting to make a name for herself. And
look,
I'm like, go you little Aussie.
Absolutely. Any Australian that can get headway into these things would be great. Or be even
And
greater.
I like her. She's very good in this show.
Is it potentially Amazon could fund something Australian made?
I would love to see that. I would love to see Amazon throw money at something like this, but on an Australian thing. I'd love to see an Australian fantasy.
I mean, we do have some Australian authors that are really amazing, that have written some amazing stories. Marianne
very
Dupuis.
fantasy series.
Yeah. Oh, really?
What's
Which
that one?
by an Australian author, Isabel Carmody.
Yes.
Over
Who
Newton.
is also lovely.
Yes.
Sure.
No, we do. We have a lot of content in Australia that has been written in Australia that could make beautiful fantasy series, but what we don't have is the kind of money in the industry that it takes to put this kind of thing effectively on screen. And you guys were giving it a little bit of a hard time before. I think we all have to remember this is still television money. Television money has increased significantly in recent years, but it's still TV money. It's not feature film money.
And I guess the thing is, we've also now gotten used to feature film money being thrown at TV, a la Marvel.
A la Marvel and a la Game of Thrones once they figured out how popular it was going to be. But, a show like this is not going to get that kind of money thrown at it in its first season. So I think you kind of have to cut it a little bit of slack when you're talking about the quality, for example, of GFX and that kind of thing. And remember that it is trying to achieve a lot, probably with a smaller budget than if you were going to watch a feature film adaptation.
Honestly, I think most of the money in this show has been spent on locations and costumes and set dressing, because it's beautiful.
I had to look it up because I couldn't put my finger on the landscapes. It's shot in the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of, it's funny you just said Czech Republic, because I'm just kind of like talking of things that you could make on a TV budget. I'd like to remind everyone, we still made Spellbinder. Or Spellbinders from like the TV show from 20 years ago.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what the point you're trying to make.
That series fucks and everyone knows it.
Oh,
it's great. You don't see, no one really wants
It's
to
not the
understand
phrase I
about
was
this.
expecting.
So that was great.
So can I,
Talking about fantasy on a TV budget.
I have a criticism to deliver, like straight out of the gate, and it's not a criticism of the content, but about how the first, what they throw you in the first half hour of the first episode does feel very television to me, to the level that, like, I don't know why they needed to have that very 90s TV spoken word intro at the beginning. You know, in every generation there's a Slayer. It just felt really like, oh, this feels like information that the show could deliver to me through exposition. Doing it like this feels very television. And then we get like these kids thrown at us who are all like unrealistically attractive. And it just really started, like, Rena, you mentioned CW before. It started to feel in the first half hour like, oh my God, is this like CW does fantasy with just like super attractive kids? And
are they going to be in a love triangle? And are they going to, you know?
I mean, who doesn't love a CW teen ship? But the other thing was, because I had started to read the first few chapters of the book, and for some reason I thought that the characters would be younger than they were presented in the TV show. I was just getting a little bit confused. And then somewhere halfway through the first episode, it kind of got me a bit.
Okay.
And it's funny that you mention exposition, because this TV series is, it's a boiled down version from the books that is doing an amazing job. Like, they've had to simplify so much. The amount of exposition in the book alone, they're having to sort of reduce it down to what is the important parts of the story, because otherwise we would still be in like the village. We would still be in the Two Rivers. And I mean, it takes 13 chapters just to get to the ferry in the book.
So this is why I probably was having a little bit of trouble starting the book then.
I mean, here's a bit of reference for you. Some people struggle to read the Lord of the Rings books as a trilogy.
I struggled because I got to the party, you know, by the end of the party, and then a whole bunch of dwarves. No, hang on, that's the whole. No, but
there's definitely a party in Lord of the Rings. But
there is
the dwarves
seriously 2 or 3 chapters devoted to the 111th party, and I was like, "Fuck this book."
Yeah, I get to the giant meeting they have in the middle of the second book, and then I just can't. Like, this is like a 7-chapter meeting. I'm very bored at this stage.
Those 3 books, those 3 Lord of the Rings books that so many people struggle with, have 480,000, just over 480,000 words between the 3 books. There are just over 300,000 in the first book alone.
Whoa!
Of Wheel of Time. And
It's
there's
a commitment.
14 books. There are 14 books plus 1 prequel.
I love
and
it.
this is the first one.
Wow.
This is the 5th one.
Holy shit.
So Robert Jordan likes his words, is what you're trying to
He
tell
loves
us.
his words. He's compared to Tolkien in the world building that he does, in the way he likes to describe everything. And
But does he have a Tom Bombadil?
well, funny enough, there kind of is a character, but you know, they've basically had to boil it down to what they can still tell the story without the sheer phenomenal levels of world building, because he references legends and stories and songs and ancient rivalries and old wars, and you know, it's all woven into the story, which is again part of the whole idea of like this wheel turning and weaving everything together and weaving souls together and weaving people and powers together. But you have to sort of choose your battles as to what part of the story you desperately need to tell, and whether or not you need to give, as I said, like the whole history of Manetheren, which they managed to squeak a little bit of in there, because it is important to know the background of these characters and where their history comes from.
Who's
but
Manetheren
you could
again?
Manetheren is the ancient capital where Two Rivers now stands. They have a song about it that they start singing.
That's
so they're
right,
all
yeah.
descendants of this ancient city that no longer exists. But they're basically, it's a way of referencing, oh, you know, once upon a time, you were all descended from heroes, basically. And because this is classic high fantasy. This is the hero's journey in its most literal sense, but it's not just one hero,
I was going to
because
say, because technically the hero's journey is usually, in a Western sense, usually only done by one.
Yeah, well, it's only there's definitely one slightly more significant character, which they are doing a very strong part to try and hide. Robert Jordan doesn't really probably try to hide it at all in the books. But in the series, obviously, they're trying to give it so that you've got a little bit of a surprise when things start to reveal. And there's also the fact that every single one of these characters, as you get through the books, they have their own very significant journey. They have their rises and falls. They're all woven together. So they're not just bit players into one story. So, and then, and that's trying to get all of that and tell all of that without bogging down in exposition. I mean, I commend them for doing it. It's I wondered if they'd ever be able to make it, because I mean, like I said, on the first book alone, you'd almost need a Lord of the Rings film extended edition to be able to tell the story. And
okay, as somebody who loves the book and is very, very invested in it, and it's always a problem when you do the adaptation thing. Do you feel like they're cutting too much out? Because I know people watch the Harry Potter films and were like, fuck, you're cutting, core pieces out to just focus on a very, very small version of the story. Is this leaving enough in for a fan?
I think, I mean, it's very difficult because obviously there are very much two camps in the fans at the moment, unfortunately. There are those of us that are really happy to see it made and that can see what they're doing. And yeah, they've left enough. There are obviously Easter eggs. There's things that we all have favorites of. There's bits and pieces that we would love to see that maybe not can fit in there. But then there's the purists that are like, unless you're directly translating it from the book, they're not happy.
So
they're kind of the white cloaks in this story.
Some of the fans aren't happy with it. I've
Sorry?
never heard of this before. A fan being unhappy
No,
with the
right?
translation.
The funny thing
Especially from
is
a book
there's
that
actually
thousands of words long and has 14 books worth.
I mean,
So-
there's characters. You've probably been introduced to the white cloaks, and if you don't already hate them, don't worry, you will.
I thought they were built for hate.
They are purists. They are, do it my way or the highway. And to me, they are the really fanatical side of Wheel of Time fandom, because it's like, unless you're doing it my way, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay. I'm sincerely hope that, there aren't fans out there who are going to stab somebody just to make a point.
Speaking of that, though, just to get it all like across the board, how many episodes have we all seen?
I've seen all 6 that are out.
Six are out, right? I've seen all
6 are out.
Yeah.
How much do we know how many we're getting in the first season?
There should be 2 more, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because I looked it up, being like, how much more of this is there? Only 2.
Yeah, only 2.
But they are in production for their 2nd season.
They
wow,
are.
right.
And it just in case anybody has missed it, they have recast one of the characters.
Oh.
Is it Rosamund Pike?
No. No, thank goodness, because she's amazing.
Right.
No, you'll probably see in the next episode that there is a slight change. There's a change to the story that Amazon themselves didn't plan for, and it's because the actor that was playing Matt didn't come back after the COVID break. So he's actually been recast for season 2.
So didn't come back because couldn't travel, because maybe didn't want to get a vax, or
There's no word. We don't know. The assumption is that there was maybe something personal, because it's been very quiet. He's even left social media. So yeah, we don't know, because he was doing a fantastic job. I was actually really loving his depiction of Matt and his just constant battle with himself. But that again, it's a character that could also play very heavily on somebody's psyche in that instance. So I'm wondering, between that and the COVID break and just a lot of stress that's in the world right now, maybe it was just a little too much. And also signing on for the potential 14 seasons.
Yeah.
It's a lot for someone who's new in the acting world, because they've picked pretty much all new actors except for Rosamund. All of the main actors are fairly fresh in their careers.
I actually thought the actor who played Matt had a vibe of Robert, what's his name from the Misfits?
Yes, he did. Who also left.
Robert Chan, yes, who also left, but also he left mostly because I think he got offers into big films. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, I had a very similar vibe.
And actually, the actor replacing him is Donald Finn, who some people might recognize from a very brief role in the first season of The Witcher.
We'll toss a coin to him then.
So I guess the two questions are: is it a good adaptation? Which you're saying, from your point of view, it is a good adaptation as much as you can take from.
As much as you can hit those points, they're hitting the important parts. There's a lot of stuff that obviously that they've had to filter out, but they're hitting the important beats so far. And yeah, from a fan side, I think there's a lot of support for it. But it's interesting to see what it's like from those that don't have that reference. I'm actually watching it every week with someone who's never read the books. So it's interesting to see, does it connect to those that don't have 30 years of history with these books?
You've got all of this encyclopaedic back knowledge of this incredible world, and we're being introduced to it for the first time.
Yeah, and I started reading it in 1991. So it's like I've been doing the wait. And I lived through the passing of Robert Jordan. And Brandon Sanderson having to pick up those books and finish it. And yeah, so I can be patient. There's a history.
It becomes a very real world for you. Well, I find when I'm reading a fantasy series that goes that long, there's kind of a second world then in your brain that exists that feels very real whenever you're reading the books. And that is a very tough thing, I think, for any filmmaker to take on and try to bring into reality. I have to say that, I had some kind of first episode jitters, and there are lots of things that, like niggly things that I'm like, like, I didn't love all of the costumes, for example, or I'm kind of wondering why 5 people who grew up in the same tiny town all have slightly different accents. Little stuff like that, but the big picture story-wise, I've got to say, this kind of hooked me, and I'm like really want to watch the next episode at this point. And I don't know if this is just because I love fantasy in general, and so I choose not to be super picky with it in the way that I might be super picky about something that I don't connect to, for example, the way I bitch about the anime things or certain kinds of sci-fi. So I might have a proclivity to suspend my disbelief much more easily when you're putting me in a fantasy world. But I also really got into the characters and the intrigue about what each character's path and strength is, because it becomes really clear that each of the key characters that we're following is going to have a separate strength and a separate,
and a very separate story arc.
And I'm really interested in these characters now. I don't know how you guys felt. I know Dion, I think, has had a little bit of a different experience, but that's where I'm at. I'm kind of hooked to this show.
I'm glad to hear that, Peta, because I know you like the interpersonal relationships and things. and this is very much a fantasy that relies on the interpersonal relationships and these small people doing big things as opposed to vast kingdoms battling each other. It's definitely about the smaller story. To some people might find it a bit slow. Dion?
I don't know that
I feel like you're all putting words in my mouth.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you haven't said that you thought it was slow, Dion. You just said you thought it was shit.
I didn't say that.
He didn't even say that, to be honest.
I just wanted to put some more words in there.
I have been misquoted out of context. I did not say anything like this. No. But I am going to say, yes, all of the side people, like it feels to me as there's 2 different stories. You've got a very intricate world building with the Aes Sedai, which is quite interesting as a story on its own. And then you've got all of these kids who some sort of magical Voltron. Do they all come together and form different parts of this one being at the end that's promised to
The multicolored dragon.
Sure.
The many-headed dragon.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I'll form the head.
and I'll do the neck. But when I say that I was like, oh, it looks like they're just mashing this show full of, tropes. It kind of just gave me a lot of vibes of like, yeah, hey, it felt like a source material that has lots of background and fans and writing, and there's a whole bunch of world building, but it feels like it's built by an executive voting council, like a television executive voting council. And so I feel it just feels to me that there's an internal struggle between television executives going, what was really cool about all these things? Do you remember this scene? Do you remember that scene? And then there's a whole writing team and filmmaking team sitting there going, yeah, we could get that in if you really want. Like, it's kind of like, it has to be the scene where there's a bunch of horses riding across a river because that was in The Lord of the Rings and that was awesome. And you're like,
it was actually, that
Sure.
scene particularly did have an unfortunate thing of looking almost exactly the same as the river shot in Lord of the Rings. And I did
Sure.
look at it and went, oh, I would have chosen a different bit of river.
But with the information that it is actually, initially is a deliberate homage, does that change your opinion of
no, it just
how
makes
you feel about that?
It just makes it worse. I just go, that's just lazier. For you creating a world of their own. Like, I mean, and also I had a strange effect watching it where I was like, okay, I'm willing to give this a go. I've seen a few different fantasy things. Let's see what it is. Like, and I didn't know where it sat, and I still don't know where it sits, because at times I felt like I'm watching a CW teen drama where I get that, and it's all very twee and teen and people are, and then someone gets decapitated and drinks blood out of a skull, and I'm like, that's like, that feels like HBO level kind of sex and nudity.
Well,
and then the next time,
the violence in that first episode, I was like, what?
yeah, but then it goes back to this kind of like, no, we're all just fantasy. Let's talk about our feelings, and then it goes back to like, oh, it's time for horror. Like, and I'm just like, what? The tone of this show is very strange. It just made me.
I
like,
hate it. I don't hate that mix, I've got to say.
I do think that, admittedly, throughout that first episode, I got to the end of the first episode where there's the big fight with all of the trollops.
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 Yeah.
You hussy.
All those loose women just slapping each other around.
Oh, you're.
This is Amazon, not HBO.
Yeah, right. So, well, yeah, no, that's another
It
thing.
did feel a bit like that with the glass cannon fucking warlock and the barbarians supposed to be protecting the warlock while they trying to summon the energy to cast a spell. I was like, did someone just write their D&D campaign in here? What the fuck's going on?
Mhm. But I did have that moment looking at that sequence where, yes, there was a lot of blood, there was a lot of violence, but also, to begin with, I was looking at the effects work, like the physical effects work on the Trollocs and going, oh no, they look a bit shit. But then there are other shots where like they'd scream or roar or something. I went, oh, that actually kind of works. And it was sitting in that really weird half and half where sometimes it looked like shit cosplay, and then other times it looked like really good effects work.
Good shit cosplay.
And then they were ripping somebody's head off, and I went, oh, well, it's just aggressive cosplay now.
I think they did a fantastic job with the Trollocs personally, because trying to translate some of these characters or creatures even, that are described in the books as just these bestial creatures that are made up of almost like animalistic parts. There's different tribes of them, and some of them are more ram based, and some of them are more like bird based, and some of them are more, they're just almost like somebody took.
Are they all supposed to be like one Trolloc can take out 50 people? Like this, that difficult to kill? Because that was kind of this weird thing that I was watching.
Generally
especially the
speaking,
first
yeah.
episode, it's like, okay, so when you 1v1, you're probably going to die. So a whole bunch of them is kind of going to take out.
They're literal creations of the Dark One. They are little creations of like this entity of evil. And
It's the same Dark One entity of evil, never really explained, that's in like The Stand. That's just that nebulous.
They,
Also
You
feel like
you will get.
I was going to say, I feel like it's probably easier to take out a whole bunch of people if you're attacking a very small mountain town that wasn't expecting to be attacked or prepared for any kind of battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're not fighters.
celebration.
None of them are fighters. That's why, like, I mean, there's little homages back to the books. Like when Rand's father pulls out a sword and Rand is just kind of like, what? Like, where'd that come from? Because nobody has a sword in this tiny little village. Nobody has a, they might use a bow to go hunting. They're a remote town that sees nobody but maybe a peddler.
Yet for some reason, they have 5 of the most special people on the planet.
And that goes back to that world building again.
Yeah. I mean, that's being unkind.
It's being very unkind because I really feel like they're actually building that into the plot. Like I'm not having a but why moment with that because like I do feel like there have been quite a few moments where they've kind of explained there were these special people in this town and they're your ancestors. What a coinkydink that you're all in the same town, descended from these people, and maybe have these special power. Like, it's how fantasy works, Dion. Like, you've got to let it do its thing.
And it's got to build up because, I mean, like, this is the first season. So you have to kind of imagine a fantasy maelstrom. It's going to be
as long as they do the Game of Thrones thing where they're like, the Starks are very important. Let's kill them all. Sure. I'm down for it. More stabbings.
I think it's interesting because they've actually removed characters and they've removed and changed significant things to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more palatable, because I think if they had been thrown the sheer number of characters that are originally in the book, people would be confused and they would be wondering what on earth is going on, because how are we supposed to bond and concentrate on these characters? Because there's 2 that have been completely removed and 1 that's been filtered down, and like they've done a good job of keeping what they can.
Sure. I mean,
I appreciate that. I am so pleasantly surprised by how much I'm enjoying the series, because I know a lot of people that started watching it before I did that were like, oh my God, it's so boring. And I thought, oh, come on. Like,
Jill,
the trailer
keep
didn't
that conversation between us.
Yeah. The trailer didn't completely sell me on it, but I thought, oh, Rosamund Pike, like, I've enjoyed her work before. It's a fantasy series. Like, let's give it a go. We're all hoping for the next best thing. And I was honestly like enraptured by the amount of action in the first episode. I quite enjoy the characters and how they all relate to each other. And the amount of development that we've had from them in 6 episodes has been quite impressive. In the beginning, I thought, oh, Moraine, Rosamund, what are you doing? You're so wooden. But then, by the time you get to episode 5 and 6, you're like, oh no, this is her character. Like, she is a very guarded person. She has all these walls up because this is her nature and this is like what she's
Maybe I haven't got too far in yet. Maybe I've got.
I'm so glad you got to that, Jill, because we spoke about it on the weekend before you'd watched 5 and 6.
Exactly.
And you were like, she's very wooden. And I was like, I feel like you're going to get that soon.
Well, and that was another thing that I kind of found about it, is that for a lot of it, it felt very humorless. For the first, however many, 4 or 5 episodes, 4 probably, it feels quite like, some of the characters get a little bit of humor and stuff, but especially, I mean, Moraine, who is such a big character in it, I was like, God, fucking just, I don't know, show us a bit of life, come on. But yeah.
I like they split the party.
Never split the party.
No, I liked that they split the party, because it was great to like be able to focus on smaller relationships within the group rather than have everybody together at the same time, and also to maybe like split people that haven't really gotten to know each other well enough on their own outside of this story, so you get to see them like building relationships between each other. And I think that was very important before they came back together, which I quite enjoyed.
And actually book accurate.
Oh, good.
I didn't even know that they came back together.
I don't even think you're going to finish watching this series, so can you keep your peanut gallery comments for
You're about to call it. Can you keep your penis to yourself?
Oh, no, I was going to say that. Okay, but like, one of the things I want to point out that I am really thoroughly enjoying is the relationship between the Aes Sedai woman and their bonded partner.
Warder?
Thank you, their warder.
That
it's always
was a great
typical like woman in charge and their sidekick is a man, and like this is the relationship. And oh my god, like whenever I'm seeing new fantasy stuff, I'm like, can we please have some queer representation? And finally we have like an Aes Sedai who has a pair of wardens that are a couple, and I'm like, yes, I'm here for it.
I mean,
still, I mean, there's not enough representation, but we've got a little bit going on.
There's I mean, if you saw the last episode, there's a little bit more than a little bit going on.
That is true also, yes.
I had a thought while I was watching it, and I how old are the books? Like when were they actually
Published 1990.
Okay, right. So they're not as old as a lot of the fantasy around. But I was watching it thinking that in today's world, there is a thing of strong female characters, and I can totally imagine a whole bunch of knuckle dragging dipshits looking at it going, oh, it's all blue-haired feminists and it's so woke, because you do have, powerful women who have men who are their protectors, who are essentially subservient to them.
Have they not read fantasy books?
And all of the fantasy, all of the power structures are essentially matriarchal.
Currently, because that's part of that whole world building thing, is because just to throw out there, there's two sides to the power. There's the one source, there's Sadar, which is for the women, and there's Sadin, which is for the men. And there was a major event that happened historically with the first dragon, and what happened is they sealed the Dark One away, and in his last stroke he contaminated the men's side of the power. So it's kind of like you can't touch it without getting oil on you, and that effect means that any male who can channel slowly goes insane.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why they've got like the Red Aja who go around gentling all the men, because when they refer to the breaking of the world, all of those powerful male channelers went instantly insane and destroyed everything. The entire shape of the world has changed.
When you say gentling the men, what does that mean just in terms of the books?
They're cut off from the source completely. They
like
use
eunuchs.
They take them out.
They're magical eunuchs.
Magical eunuchs. They can no longer touch the source. For men, it's called gentling. For women, it's called stilling. But
so I have to say, we're only getting half of that story at the moment in the series, and the half of the story we're getting is that the men touch the power. For some reason, it drives them insane. And I have to admit, in the first episode, I started to get a little bit worried that we were about to watch like a MRA dog whistle series, because there's this scene where this woman is saying, you can't have the power, you're a man, and it looks like they're killing him. And I was like, ooh, what are we going to say with this series here? So I feel like there is a little bit, and I kind of got it because there's a prologue in the bit of the book that I have read is a prologue that actually goes some way to explain a little bit of that as well. Okay. But yeah, I feel like maybe they've missed a little bit of what might help a new audience to really understand what's going on with the men and why they're...
I'm guessing they'll probably bring more of that into it, because obviously you've already had the character of Logain and what happened with him. And you get to know more with time as to why they have such a worry for when men can touch the power, and why this history happens, and what it can potentially mean for the future if men were allowed to continue to touch the power. And yeah, it is very much fundamental to the story, this whole contamination that causes the problem. Because the last dragon obviously was a man, and he was one of the most powerful channelers ever, and he killed his whole family, and pretty much he and his friends destroyed the world before they died.
Would you call this a feminist text?
There are parts of it that definitely have a feminist vibe, but it's less feminist. But there's definitely a lot of gender politics in it because of who some of the characters are, and what their stories are and where the power sits at the moment. Because you've also got like the Children of the Light, the White Cloaks, who are
You mean
these
the assholes?
the assholes that you want to dump like mud on because they're just too shiny.
I've never
because
known
they,
that a group of men dressed all in white to be bad.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah, never been a problem historically.
They're fanaticists, and they don't think that anyone should touch the power, and that they're contaminating. Like women should not be, powerful, and they should not be allowed to do this. And yeah, they will kill any Aes Sedai they get their hands on, and so you've got it's less of a purely feminist text and more of a very much gender, like the byplay back and forth between different powers and different beliefs and different gender politics. And it is a little bit 90s in that, because I mean, the way Robert Jordan writes some of his women probably need this series to sort of bring them up to the current millennium. There's a lot of talking about arms under bosoms and whatnot, but
heaving beasts.
Yes, but it's very much that whole men women side, that yin yang thing, because that's literally a symbolism that they've pulled into the books, is part of the politics in the story that as it goes on, because his references are from Eastern mythology, from Arthurian legend, from Tolkien, from Celtic legend. Like he's pulled it all in there, and yeah, so he's using that yin yang.
That's a very good point, because I think in like the last 2 episodes maybe that I watched, I was like, I just had this thought that I'm like, God, I'm so tired of binary. Like it feels extremely binary, like very noticeably just 2 factions. That's it, no in between.
Yeah, there's no gray. It's that yin yang symbol is very much, I mean, the white side is the flame of Tar-Valon, which symbolizes the Aes Sedai. The black side, which used to symbolize the male channelers, is now the dragon's fang, and it is now a symbol of evil, because of what the male channelers all did to the world, and that they're all still recovering from.
I would just like to have some stuff updated a little bit more, like what would this world look like if there was somebody that walked the line between male and female? Like I mean, is this a thing that exists in this world? Like,
I'm kind of hoping that they will be able to update that. It's going to be difficult because it is a very binary team. It's a very binary written story.
Yeah, I just think it would make for a fascinating plot point to, have somebody that walks that line.
There's a lot of non-human characters that are probably going to be a little bit more in the gray side of things. So they may have a chance to go there. And there are other characters that, while still slightly binary, they're definitely not, they allow gender roles to sort of go on their head. They turn them around, and the women have, their own paths that they can take and that sort of thing. So it's not just fantasy where, the women have to be one way and the men have to be another. So, but I do think they have the opportunity. If they take it, we'll see. It'll be nice to see.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we've moved into a world where things are a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting by all of that. Now, I don't know whether we can actually get to a point where we do spoilers on this, because it's 6 episodes and
I just checked the
there's at
spoiler
least
logo
another 2
straight up.
more.
I was like, yeah, whatever. We're just going to talk about spoilers.
I've been very careful because I don't want to spoil, especially considering the series has been very, very, very careful not to give away certain parts of the story just yet.
Also, this week is dark and full of spoilers, so I don't really want to add to that entire level, because the reason we're doing the show on Wednesday is because screenings are back with full abandon.
With a vengeance.
With a vengeance. And we had to split the party, and
we had to split
the party. And so some of us have seen Spider-Man, and some of us have seen West Side Story, and some of us have seen none.
I think you can get spoiled for West Side Story.
Yeah, in the end.
Yeah. I'll give you a spoiler for West Side Story. It's actually Romeo and Juliet.
Oh.
Don't say.
Really?
Yeah.
The Spanish and Latin.
Spoilers for West
Dancing.
Side Story.
Actually, one thing I will say, my tiny tiny review. Yes, I do want to live in America. My tiny review of West Side Story is I've never seen it before. I've never watched the musical back in the day or anything like that. Yes, Peter, you can look shocked all you want. And yes, they do a lot of clicking. But one thing that amazed me, I was looking at it going, oh, hang on, In the Heights is essentially just a modern re-exploration of so many of the same themes, just without the clicking. And I was like, oh
just without the clicking.
Yeah, it's.
So what you're
very,
saying is
very-
that content creation is dead. We're all just telling the same stories over and over again until we all die. And
Well, there's only 7 stories, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
if
here's a
that.
question, Quinny. Did you get subtitles for the Spanish parts?
No, and I actually had great frustration with this, and that's actually my biggest complaint about the film.
I understand that was a deliberate choice by Spielberg.
I wondered because
No one understands in
Comprende de
America.
Español?
I mean,
Mhm.
I am, relatively comprende of Espanol, and enough to the point where
Bueno.
I could make out vaguely what was happening, but I did feel like by the end of the film, I'm pretty sure there was a much more nuanced story going on that I don't know about.
Well, maybe this film just
And-
wasn't for you, Quinny.
And that is exactly what I was thinking.
I think
is
you're
that-
making a very obvious point
yeah,
by not
yeah.
having subtitles.
And I because they so regularly say, hey, speak in English, where we have to try and learn, it's intentional. Like if they wanted you to know what was being said, they would just say it in English, or they would have subtitled or whatever. But yeah, it was a difficult thing. And there was a part of me that's like, I would love to know what was said then, but also maybe I'm not meant to.
Speaking of which,
Anyway, tangent.
Yeah.
speaking of which, there's also Hawkeye going on right now. Which
No, let's wrap up so I can go and watch
Okay.
it.
That is my next port of call. I already have an appointment to go watch that right
I love
after
it.
this.
so like, I really want to talk about Wheel of Time, but oh boy.
Okay, I'm just thinking, can we have a clip and then we'll come back and do our ratings?
Sure. Which one do you want? Do you want Moraine berating someone for washing clothes, which is obviously something?
No,
you do?
washing rocks.
Sorry, washing rocks. Or do you want to see what a trollop attack looks like?
I think we need the Trolloc attack.
Okay, the Trolloc.
There's been so much talk about how they look. So
The Trolloc
Actually-
attack, it wins. And we'll come back and are we going to rate it when we come back then?
We will.
Prepare your ratings in the chat. Let us know what you're going to feel like out of 100. And then we'll wrap up it so everyone can go and watch Hawkeye.
You want a real feast? Come and get some of this!
You remember when we played hide and seek? Yeah, big.
Oh, yeah.
One of the
Tense.
things I loved about that scene is that it just kept going. Like, I thought that, like, Moraine was going to, like, come out and do her thing and, like, they won now. And she came out and do her thing. And then they kept it coming. It was like that Daredevil scene. Like,
Yes.
no, she's got to do more her thing. Oh, my God, now she has to do more? Like, they might actually lose this battle. What's going on?
Which was fun because, yeah, like, even though she's got all these cool-ass magical powers and is blowing shit up left, right, and center, it still felt like, oh, yeah, there is shit on the line here, and characters that we've been introduced to briefly are dying.
There was a sense of consequence that, you know, it wasn't just everything was magically going to be fixed. You didn't know what was going to be the end result of all of this attacking and these people. So
I also love that the default spell for every wizard is a fireball.
Well, it's fireball or magic missile.
Magic wind or fireball. I mean, everyone, and this is one of the things, like, you can never do well in any fantasy or, you know, fictional television show. No one looks like they know what the fuck they are doing when they are summoning magic and then attacking people with it. So kudos to everyone who just comes up with waving their arms around and hoping that it gets CGI'd in better later.
Though there were some bits later on with Lagain, the, you know, wannabe dragon, where they were gentling him and stuff. I was looking at some of the hand movements and stuff. I thought, actually, you've worked with a movement coach on that, because there's elements of mime and stuff in there, and I was like, actually,
yes, sir.
We
got Amazon money. We get ourselves a movement coach and a dialect person,
but not an accent coach.
Because ultimately, it's going to have to be consistent, right? Like, they can't just have, like, Rosamund Pike making up what she wants to do, because then the next Aes Sedai that does magic is going to look completely different.
I don't know. That could have been fun.
And they are all trained in the same place. So, these weaves that they use to create the abilities they have, because they're literally weaving the 5 elements is the idea, in order to create their spells. They're taught specific weaves to do certain things. And obviously, I mean, again, you've got that gender binary again. Women are better with air and water, and men are better with fire and earth. Spirit is for healing. But yeah,
they could make Captain Planet if they tried hard.
They could. But it's very much, they're all learning, they're all having to do things a certain way because they've been taught to do things a certain way.
Sorry, I just got angry eyes from Peter.
Oh no, it wasn't angry eyes. It was realization that we have 5 elements and 5 heads of the dragon. I'm wondering if each of them have a strength in a particular element, but perhaps I need to wait and see how the story unfolds to find that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to
wait and see how the story unfolds. That's okay.
And even for me, I mean, because they are changing things, whether they have to or not, or because they, you know, incidents have happened, they are making some changes. So even for me as a fan, there are little things where I'm like, oh, so that's what they decided to do. Okay, cool. You know, that's a surprise. And this reference to the many-headed dragon makes so much sense. Because you do, like in the books, their stories are interwoven. They're not support characters in one individual's life. They all have their arcs and their stories and their fundamental parts to play in this, you know, big coming battle. So
now that there is, okay, so before we give it the rating and stuff, I do want to ask a question which may involve some spoilers. And I'm going to ask Rena, because you're the expert here. What up with the wolf guy? I think he's the most interesting guy that I've seen that's currently on there. And I'm like, oh, that guy who suddenly just has like a pack of wolves and has some sort of wolf eye. I'm like, I like you, buddy. What are you doing?
It's fun. I'm like, thank you for mentioning him, because in the books, he's my favorite.
But also, he has a very, very bad time with an axe. So,
and he does. And that's the other thing is he is not married in the books. He is an apprentice blacksmith, and that part with his wife isn't in that. That was added. There are a lot of people that have an issue with that, which I understand because it feels like a fridging. But unfortunately, it's a shorthand. It's a shorthand to show where his bestial side is coming out. It's a shorthand to show his difficulty with dealing with axes in general comes from, because that may be significant to him in future.
He's got like some sort of axe to grind.
Yeah, it may become a very, very important piece of equipment to him.
Nice.
And his angst with that is very much, it's a shorthand to try and shorten all of his existential crisis that he has through the entirety of like 7 books.
Okay.
Or something like that. So that I understand why they did it that way.
Interesting one out of all of them. The rest of them sort of
But
seem like cookie cutter.
Yeah, he's got an interesting story. They've all got their interesting stories. They've all got their things that are going to be revealed, and their parts that are come from their bloodlines and whatnot. But yeah, he's a wolf brother, and there is an entire character named Elias that originally he meets is also a wolf brother, and he's originally the one that shows him, and sort of guides him into this. So they've actually cut him out entirely, sadly, because he's kind of your wild man, feral, living on the edge of society type. But yeah, he's got a lot. That's going to be a fundamental thing for him as he struggles with accepting who he is, accepting that side of him.
Right. So he's a werewolf, basically.
He's not a werewolf. He doesn't turn into a dog or a wolf or anything.
Come on. Damn it.
But yeah, he's definitely has a very strong tie to the wolves, and the wolves become a very, very important part of him.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love that. It's like, well, I've just got a pack of wolves.
Yeah.
So, why not? Sure. Attack. Get him, boys.
Again, there's layers there that unfortunately they can't really just data dump on you with all of, what's going on.
The one that I struggled with the most initially was blonde-haired square jaw guy, just because he was blonde hair square, or I don't know, I'm colorblind. He may be redhead. I don't know.
He's a redhead, which is the other thing that gave me a CW vibe. Like cheekbones and dyed red hair.
And red hair and
it's like blonde, but Rand. Yes, he's a redhead.
Cool.
He's a ginger.
I do love a good ginger. However, I can't fucking see them. They're invisible to me.
He has been the one that has had the least amount of growth so far, but I feel like now that he's met this what was it, troll gnome? What was that?
Ogier? The Ogier?
Oh
yes, that one.
Loyal. Yes.
Yeah, now that he's met this guy and found out that maybe he's descended from some sort of tribe. That
good. Ceramic saying, "Don't worry, Bland Rand is also a book thing." Good, because I kind of had a thing with him. I'm like, oh god, you are just like absolutely typical generic hero. No.
He's just a village boy. He is literally just a village boy that gets thrown into a situation, and he does
then becomes a hero.
He does have some
0 to hero
growth. Yeah, definitely. Like he definitely has some growth and has some lessons to learn, and he has some human interactions and not so human interactions that'll very much affect his path. But yeah, at the moment he is just a village boy trying not to want to run home to his mom or to his dad anyway. So yeah, he has his own things to deal with.
Good, because he bored the shit out of me.
The only other character that I thought was super interesting was I think the person that they ran into on the road, who was the bard who turned out to be not a bard.
Tom Maryland, the Gleeman.
Yes. Again, like, I mean, I cannot keep up with, like, they all have, apart from the Aes Sedai, they all have a weird color palette, which makes them bland. Like, they all meld into the same sort of thing. But also, I don't know any of the names. It's like, hi, you're great. It's like
he's a really interesting character in the books too. In fact, but they've changed him because I mean, originally you meet him in Two Rivers, and he travels with the group of kids. So he's actually like there through the whole story. But again, it's that thing of how many characters can we throw at you without you getting really, really confused?
I feel like they're
Trying
following
to
the
give
Lord of the
them
Rings
enough
thing
to do in scenes.
where they're getting like, I feel like they're moving from Hobbiton to Rivendell in the first season, and then that's about it. But I don't know yet. I haven't got through. I'm not up to 6. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know if there's a big bad or something. But
Kind of, but yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's a hero's journey or multiple heroes' journeys, and they've changed things. I mean, Thom or Tom, depending on how you want to pronounce it. He's a darker character in the series than he is in the books. A Gleeman is known for being its color, for its bright patched coat, for being your typical sort of jester type that tells stories and sings songs. So they've darkened him down.
Glee man.
Yeah, Gleeman.
Why are they not all singing a cappella in a school somewhere?
Oh,
And
sorry, Pete.
this
is killing her.
It's also a theme that Brandon Sanderson, who's acting as sort of a
Surrogate Robert Jordan.
Yeah, contractor for the story. He's very careful about that. He's guarding that because he doesn't want them to darken the whole thing down too much, because essentially, as he says, the whole story is about hope in the long run. So this idea of darkening it down and making it gritty and making it grime dark and he doesn't want them to do that. He keeps trying to pull them back so that he doesn't do that too much. But Thom's character, I like the version that they've created for the series because he does have a gravitas to him that in a lot of ways he doesn't have in the books, because he is this, almost like jester type character. So I'm looking forward to seeing more from him because, again, he's fundamental. He's important.
Okay. Because, I did have that feeling of going, I feel like you're meant to be funner than you are. Like, there's something about the title, there's something about the way that the other characters in the town and everything react to him. I was like, there was a disconnect between the way that the character type was talked about and the way that it was being played. And I was like,
He should probably be a little closer to Yaskier.
Right. Tossing coins to witches and stuff like that.
Like, come on, unoriginal. It's been done before.
What, a cheerful, colorful bard? Oh my God. Heavens to Betsy.
So quick shout out also to Nynaeve and Egwene, who also seem like we kind of touched on a lot of the boys in the group, but these both seem like really interesting characters to me, particularly Nynaeve. And I'm only 6 episodes in. It's kind of hard to rate something like this when you haven't got all the way through it. But I'm kind of, I guess, liking the way Egwene and Nynaeve and how their relationship could potentially develop. I mean, there's certainly a moment where Egwene thinks that she's going to get praise and then realises that the praise is going to Nynaeve, which makes me kind of think that there might be, something there between those two that's a little bit beneath the surface now as well.
There's a lot going on. I mean, Nynaeve has a lot on her shoulders to begin with because she's very young, but she's a wisdom of her of her village. She's like the wise lady, and she thought she was going to take Egwene as an apprentice, and then everything just kind of goes to shit. But she's in a really strong, very strong-minded character, especially in the books, and she's very much about following her own path and making her own decisions. And don't you dare try and manipulate her into something, because darn it, she's not gonna take it. So, but they both have slightly similar arcs in some of the stuff that's going to happen with them, but there will be less of a rivalry between them and more of a sisterhood.
Nice.
Interesting.
Well, that's actually something I'm excited to see more of, because having characters and having female characters who are at each other's throats is
tired.
Yep.
And like finding characters that are actually well written and able to interact with each other, not just talk about dudes, but talk about all of the problems, just basic Bechdel shit, but also support each other and go, yeah, I've got your best interest at heart is a fucking magical thing when you run across it.
Yeah, and they're very protective of each other. And Nynaeve is obviously very protective of all of what she sees as the younglings from Two Rivers. And like she's literally there to protect them all. She wants to get them all back to home safe and sound, and not taking into account that maybe she's got to decide whether or not she can ever go home herself, and whether or not she's the same person who she was when she left. So she's got a lot to go on there. And I personally love to bits. I'm so glad they've managed to do it so well. Her interactions with Lan, because so far her interactions with Lan are just like, yeah. I love those two together so much. It's just, yeah, they bounce off each other so well.
But it's so lovely to hear that an adaptation has actually been kind of doing justice to the source material and really
Especially when it's
capturing
so
its fans.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're going to have some fans that are going to be the complete and utter opposite to what my opinion is, because, yeah, that's a thing. And there are people that, if it's not exactly what they picture in their heads, missing the part that it's in their heads and that nobody can ever match what's in your head, then they're not happy with it. But they need to remember that no matter what adaption's made, the books still exist. They can always go back to them, and it's still going to be there unchanged.
Yeah.
So it's something that a lot of the fans unfortunately need to learn. But yeah, you can never really exactly match what you see. I mean, Perrin definitely doesn't match what I pictured when I was reading the books, but I still love him as a character, and he's absolutely adorable. So it's a matter of finding the things you recognize and the things that you like in any adaptation and letting yourself run with those, because maybe not everything's going to be perfect, but it doesn't change your love for the source material. So
Okie dokie. I reckon we should put some numbers down.
Yes.
Tell me what you numerically think of it. So as you well know, Rena, our rating system is you start at 100 because everything is perfect, and then you take off things until you get a score. I mean, you could just rate from 0 up. Either way, it's essentially exactly the same.
We've
So you
also
want me-
been flawless. Like basically, our rating system just has no errors in it.
No, it never.
We never
We've
get it
never
wrong.
rated anything wrong.
Accurate to
Yeah.
100%.
It doesn't, it's not in flux with our moods or anything like that.
Oh, sorry, accurate to 113%, as has
Yes,
been calculated
yes.
many times.
who wants to go first?
I will.
Done.
I can do it. Based on the 3 episodes that I've seen, I'm giving it 75 Lord of the Rings piss takes out of 100.
Higher than I thought you were going to go.
Yeah,
quite a lot.
I don't look. I'm taking like points are only coming off because it has some ropey fucking CGI in places. It feels like, even though I know it's an homage and it goes through all sorts of things, you know, for Lord of the Rings, it just feels like it's like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones light, which is unfair because it has a lot more background, but they're doing not a bad job. Like. And also, I'm just confused by tone. I don't know where I want to go. Like, there's people I hate, and I'm like, you're going to go full horror, squeamish, terrible stuff? Or is this a teen drama? I'm not quite sure what the fuck's going on. I just want them to, like, I'm not sure where I'm sitting. Am I watching Riverdale or am I watching, you know...
Rivendell.
Hey, Riverdale. Yeah, fuck's sake. I give up. 75. Move on. See, you all thought I was going to hate it, so fuck you guys.
Yes, well, you have a record.
Yeah.
Oh, so naughty, please.
I mean, look, I'm going to give it 85 because, I mean, I think Dion is right about not being sure if it's a teen drama or
Thank you.
a horror, except that I kind of like that vibe. So I'm just rating it higher based on that. And just based on the fact that I ended up kind of slamming the 6 episodes. Like, I started watching it fairly reluctantly because we had to talk about it, and I didn't really have time. And then I ended up slamming them all in like a day and got sad when there wasn't another one to go. So I think that means I liked it. So I'm giving it 85.
Lovely.
I am going to give it an 80. I feel the same as Pete. Like, I was, yeah, we're going to do it next week. I better start watching it. It was the weekend, so. But yeah, I got through it quite quickly and was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. And I really feel like it's probably going to go in a Game of Thrones direction of like garnering a bigger audience potentially and becoming like its own thing. I really feel like it's got that potential, especially after episode 6. I felt like it was quite an exciting way to end an episode. So yeah, I'm keen to keep watching it.
Nice. I'm gonna go 78. I had to think about that. And I also have to write it down so I don't forget. I'm sorry, Jill. I didn't.
It's getting late.
I know.
I've had a lot of
there,
late nights.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it manages to. So the way I looked at it is that it somehow manages to overcome its feelings. Like I had so many misgivings right at the start. It felt a little cheap. It felt a little bit CW. Some of the costumes felt a little bit kind of tacky. And then there was a bunch of monsters that looked a little bit like people in suits. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this could be. And I felt like we were going back to the Shannara Chronicles. And I was like, oh, no, this is going to be bad. But then I think the content, the actual quality of the story and the characters and stuff overcomes all of that. And then you give it enough time to go with it. And when you do, then you go, oh, hang on, there's some fucking amazing set design. There is some beautiful world building. There's some really cool stuff with the characters, and there's some locations that are like, wow, that's amazing. I love the gypsy people whose name I can't remember.
The Tuatha?
Yeah. Tuatha. The Tuatha De Danann, huh?
Pretty close.
Well, that's the name of the fairy people in.
Like I said, it takes a lot of references
It
from
really
a lot
does.
of things.
Holy shit! Okay.
Yeah, so the followers of the Way of the Leaf.
So I really like those, and I was like, yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, it overcomes. Like I think a lot of people would probably watch the first episode and go, nah, and that would be their loss.
Yeah.
Rena, give us a number.
93.
Ooh. Okay.
Rolling
93 because like I've said, yes, they've had to remove things that are very close to my heart, but they are doing such a good job of hitting the important beats. And I've said before, I love Robert Jordan's writing to bits, but if there's one thing that he does is he over exaggerates and over describes everything. So this kind of does a good job in filtering that down to the important parts of the story. He gets rid of the dross and all of the bits. And so far, I think they're managing to give us that tale, that important story, and keep the heart of the characters, which is very important, while still sort of modernizing it a little bit and yeah, shortening it down to someone who hasn't necessarily spent the majority of their life obsessing over these books, because yeah, that's a thing.
That's actually great.
Yeah,
I'm so happy that it's working out.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I understand.
I tried not to get too hyped. Like it's one of those things. It's like as a fan, you have to find a level, and some fans get really, really hyped. I see you there, Sir Remick. That it's coming out and that are really dedicated to the hype. And I was trying to find a balance to, this has been a long journey for me with these books, and a lot of time and heart spent, through my teenage years, just living in this world. Please don't screw it up.
Kind of like me with the Book of Boba Fett. I'm just looking at that going, yeah, it could be real shit.
Could be. And this could have gone, as we said, it could have been the new version of, Shannara, which did disappoint me, unfortunately. But no, they've managed to hit the important parts. They've managed to keep to the heart of that story that he spent so many decades writing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I'm looking forward to seeing, even the things that they change, because that keeps the story fresh for me as a fan.
Yeah.
And if it's successful, only 13 more seasons.
Only, because holy cow, how many times have we had things that we get dedicated to and then they cut them short?
Yeah.
Just
Well, I mean, I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yes.
We'll get 5 good structured seasons, and then Amazon will just make them wrap up the remaining books in 1 season.
please don't. I mean, hopefully it doesn't get the Game of Thrones treatment, because unlike the Game of Thrones, the series is written. The entirety of this series is published. They have the whole story. They don't have to wait for the writer to eventually get off his butt
Do you
and
ever feel
pull
like
his pen out of his butt.
George R.
You
R.
know, like-
Martin is just going to change the ending just because he can?
Yeah.
And just because he knows how much people fucking hated it.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Anyway.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks, everyone, coming along in the chat. You've been
There are a whole
amazing.
bunch of new names in there, which was lovely to see. Big Damn Judge and Extra More, Candriel, and of course Remick, who obviously, has been a very vocal member in there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Ceramic is definitely riding that hype train from day one, and it's actually been fantastic to see, because I think he's actually got me a little more excited than because I was sort of pulling myself back because I was worried about, oh, what are they going to do? But yeah, his excitement for it from day one has definitely pushed me to be like, yeah, okay, I'm in. Let's go. Let's do this.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming along, Rena, and helping us pass this
Yes,
whole
thank you.
story.
Thank you for having me. I
Sure.
hope I didn't
Hugely-
throw too much at you guys.
No, it was
Nope.
wonderful.
No,
Wonderful.
It's fine.
And as Peter has also pointed out, if you are looking for something to do tomorrow night while you are waiting to go and watch Spider-Man or whatever it is that you're doing, or you're waiting for The Witcher to drop, or you're just waiting for any number of the things that are coming out over the next few days, there is a lovely film on Netflix. What's it called, Peter?
It's called Puff Wonders of the Reef. It's a little
Yay,
documentary, and it will be on Netflix tomorrow, the 16th
Yay.
of December.
Hooray!
If you like little documentaries about little fish, then you should probably check it out.
Yes.
It's super
Yes.
cute and incredibly looking.
I'll
It
be
looks
reviewing it
amazing.
on Friday.
And,
I'm
and
totally
then
watching
just
that.
be nice to me about it, because I'm a very sensitive creator.
We
I'm
will be
joking.
lovely
We're not
about
actually
it.
doing anything on Friday, are we?
No.
No, we're having a little break. See?
Everyone.
I have
I
a
know
big
what I'm
party
doing
to
on
go to.
Friday.
Is it The Witcher?
He
I
wishes
like that
she
you're
was
actually
doing The Witcher.
vibrating at this moment.
I'm like, yes,
And then-
yes. The Witcher season is out.
Special animates on Saturday, Quinny.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. And it'll be about 2:30 of an afternoon on Saturday.
Yeah.
I realized that all of the things say 7:30 at night. That is not going to happen.
No, it's
No,
okay.
it'll be in the afternoon, but there will be a tile that goes out, and we'll work out what works best for all involved.
And next Tuesday, some little independent film. Don't know, from
Yep.
some studio, some arachnid human. I don't know.
Hombres Araña.
Yeah, I think it's by Del Toro or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So-
No, sorry, Araña Hombres. I don't know.
I don't know.
The Nachtburst. Oh wait, I mean the
Nut
the-
monkey.
yeah.
No, I like eine kleine Nachtwurst, a little bit of night sausage.
The night sausage man. Yeah, that's coming out, and then it's Christmas, and then Ghostbusters, and then some more stuff which has been coming out, which we just haven't got around to scheduling yet.
I imagine we'll probably talk about the Matrix at some point, but
What is the Matrix? When is the
I don't know.
Matrix? Who is the Matrix?
Will you
Why?
be talking about Witcher
The
season 2
Matrix.
at some point?
Oh,
Yeah, potentially. There's a lot going on. It's Christmas time, and while we've all had a lot of time on our hands during lockdowns to watch television, and now there's no more lockdowns, there's a bunch of stuff to do. There's life to catch up on.
it is. But you know what? I mean, we haven't done our schedule for January yet,
No.
so we will look at it. And I know that Dion's very excited for The Witcher.
I think it'll be fine.
Right. Look,
Perfect.
we've all got to go and watch
Hawkeye.
this episode of Hawkeye.
Thanks
So
for
thank
joining
you so
us.
much. Rena, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Peter, wherever you may be, we hope that you're having a lovely time driving. Be safe.
Thank you.
And congrats on the film coming out tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. Jill,
Thank you.
you look amazing. You are the best human. Dion, I love you. That's all there is.
I'm just waiting for the
Aw.
backhanded compliment, Quinny. What's going on? Oh.
that- No, it's just you have beautiful hair and you're my bestest friend. So there. Shut up.
Aw. Oh, just,
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's filling us up with love before you don't talk to us for 3 weeks.
Yeah, so kind of a big fuck off to Tasmania. Okay, we are going to raid Hex, but for now we will say thank you so much, and thanks for joining the periodic table of awesome.
See you next time. Bye.
I wanna live in a world full of heroes, not sit here counting zeros in a cubicle downtown. I wanna look out my window, see 'em flying, and swing across the horizon as I cheer 'em on so proud. Deep-powered girl keep staring at her face, and call Colossus and have 'em teach me ways, and then we'd exercise. I'd be one of the guys. And martial arts from Iron Fist and Wall. I'll dance her up and teach her all my songs. Oh, I wanna live in a world full of heroes, not cooking up these heroes at my parents' restaurant now. I wanna yell out Avengers Assemble, not order up for Ethel. Yeah, we're out of cheeky now. Date Emma Frost and have her read my mind. Or Magdalena, her artifacts I find, and then we catch a symphony. It'll just be her and me. Call Bucky Barnes and arm wrestle for hours. This NMA and bring her lots of flowers. Oh, trendy bars would be a guy's night out. We'd make that wolf pack now. I'd run with Flash and do a marathon. Vacation to the Savage Land for fun. Oh,